Hey everyone, this episode is brought to you by glass grocery bags. Everyone knows that Mother Earth isn't doing so hot and we got to take care of her. We can't keep dipping our plastic bag cigarettes into her mouth. She can't breathe. Paper's not that much better. And I was just reading about how reusable bags aren't that much better. That's why we invented glass grocery bags. There's a number of benefits of a glass grocery bag. For one, stained glass is beautiful if you go that direction. For two, if you don't go that direction, you can see right into your bag. So when you're bringing your bag in and your little son Rufus is like, oh, Mom, where's the fruit gushers? You can just be like, oh, peering in the bag. Boom, there they are. And the other thing is you get to wash them out, and then they're nice and clean. You use a glass grocery bag for lots of reasons. It prevents thievery as well because you can beat assailants with it. And it's incredibly heavy. Another benefit, you got those juice boxes at the sharp corners. They're not tearing through glass. This is aquarium glass. This isn't a plastic bag. This is glass grocery bags from the makers of reusable toilet paper. Glass grocery bags are another Donafart Industries innovation. Hello and welcome to The Critical Breakdown, the podcast where we start at the bottom of Rotten Tomatoes and work our way to 100% fresh. I'm Scott.
And I'm Max. And today, we're doing our first co-host challenge.
Cue the music.
I challenged Scott to watch Pacific Rim.
And I challenge Max to watch Gone, Baby Gone.
And so today we're taking a break from the countdown and we're going to talk about these two films.
Yeah. Sometimes we need a breather from the countdown. Though, the countdown has been getting better, so.
That's the good thing, is building up to 100. Yeah. Everything, in theory, gets better.
Yeah, it gets easier. But it's still nice to, watch two legitimately very good movies.
Yeah, have fun doing it.
Yeah. How you been, though, man?
Been good, man. Been good.
Liking what you're doing with the hair now.
Thanks. Yeah, mohawk. Bringing it back.
When was the last time you got your hair cut?
Realistically?
Yeah.
Probably right before I started my new employment, so about a month ago.
Because, remember, we talked about growing out our rat tails all of 2017. So that's still on the table, right?
Yeah, it's the new year.
Yeah.
What about you?
I'm going to grow out my rat tail, too.
I'm going to tell people it's a Padawan braid, because I feel like that's less nerdy than growing a rat tail.
But it's just a rat tail.
Yeah.
Wait, you think a Padawan braid's less nerdy?
Exactly.
It's less trashy. Speaking of trashy, what have you been watching lately? I don't know why I said that. That wasn't nice and there's no bearing for it. What have you been watching lately?
Well, I started watching some shows on Hulu. Just signed up for Hulu.
Oh, welcome.
Saw all the new shows on there, and I decided to go the other direction and watch an old show. Party of Five, the 90s teen hit.
Yeah.
Starring Matthew Fox.
Bay.
Scott Wolf. Nev Campbell.
Beautiful.
A couple others. A very young Lacey Chabert.
Jennifer Love Hewitt, right?
She joins in later seasons, yeah.
There you go.
So,
how's it hold up?
It's pretty goofy, but I enjoy it. Everyone's really self-absorbed, and it's a lot of 90s drama. What's great is half of these plot lines could easily be solved with, a cell phone.
Yeah.
And it's just refreshing to see TV shows that don't have that.
Yeah.
Because it's always just fun to watch the ridiculousness.
Yeah, it definitely creates additional problems. A lot of plots from, pre-cell phones are easily solved by cell phones, so...
I would say all the way through the early, the late WB, early CW, before smartphones were around, when it was just flip phones still. Even then, half those plot lines still worked.
They weren't so prevalent then.
Yeah, but now it's just everything has to be different.
Yeah.
And then I've also been watching a show called Mercy Street.
I think you told me a little bit about it, but please describe it to our listeners.
It is a period piece, a PBS historical drama set in the Civil War of some nurses working at a kind of a makeshift hospital.
Right on.
And they have to deal with both Union soldiers and Confederate soldiers coming in, and it's kind of a power struggle to see who they should take care of. Yeah. And even one Southern girl is well, I'll be the Southerner's nurse. And it's apparently based off actual events that happened. Yeah. So, besides the Civil War, the actual events.
Yeah, within it. And this is the one with Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Ted Mosby.
Josh Radnor, I believe, is the actor.
Yeah. And then a couple other familiar faces. Anna Sophia Robbs and a couple other people I recognize.
She's from Jumper.
Yeah. Played a young Rachel Bilson. Played it well, too.
Spot on casting. That's cool, man. Is that also on Hulu?
That one's on Amazon Prime.
Right on.
I've just gotten into like the third episode, maybe.
Okay.
So just kind of slow burning. It's like 6 long episodes.
Yeah, I feel like that's how a lot of those PBS, like Masterpiece Theater stuff is. Though that's not Masterpiece Theater. Right?
Yeah, you just...
Because it's not British.
It's more like you just digest it as you watch it. It's not that you gotta rush through it. So.
Yeah.
What about you?
Speaking of rushing through it, and also speaking of Hulu, this episode brought to you by Hulu, hopefully someday. I watched all of season 1 of Fargo in about 4 days.
That's on my my to watch list.
Yeah, it's been on mine for a long time too. And I just hit like a point where I finished up my last show, which was Happy Endings, also on Hulu, sponsored by Hulu, which is a half-hour sitcom, which I was looking for, and I was glad I got that. So then I jumped right back into a drama. Fargo was amazing, season 1.
Is that with Patrick Wilson?
No, season 2 is with Patrick Wilson. 2. It's so, for anyone who doesn't know, it's an anthology series. Each season can stand alone, has no ties to the prior seasons or the following seasons.
Who's the big star of season 1?
Season 1 is Martin Freeman. I mean, it has Bob Odenkirk. It has Key and Peele are in it.
Nice.
Yeah, but Martin Freeman's like Billy Bob Thornton, who was amazing as well in it. It's a really very compelling mini. Like, I watched the first episode one night, and then the second episode, and then I watched the rest in a 24-hour span. I could not put it down.
I'll probably start it pretty soon.
Yeah.
Once I'm done with Mercy Street.
Yeah, I hope you do, because I'd like to talk about it. So I'm probably going to buy the season 2 on Amazon. I've only heard better things about season 2.
Yeah, same. And season 3 has Ewan McGregor and Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Yeah, and
I'm sure tons of other people.
Yeah. Season 2 has a star-studded cast: Patrick Wilson, Kirsten Dunst, Jesse Plemons, right, from Friday Night Lights and Breaking Bad, and he's been in tons of stuff now. But it's got a lot of really good stars, and it takes place in the 80s, I think. And then season 1 took place kind of in like the early 2000s. And then I know season 3 takes place in the 90s. So.
That's cool.
And there's like one tie-in from season 1 to the movie. That's cool. Not a character or anything, but one plot thing that comes through. And it's pretty cool. The movie's really good too. Yeah. Not similar at all, but no, I really liked it. It was really good.
I'm going to step back for a second. Happy Endings is one of my favorite sitcoms of all time.
Yeah, it's really good.
And it's a shame. It's a shame that it didn't last longer.
I thought it only had like 1 season, so I was happy to see it had 3.
Yeah.
But
3 seasons is solid, but
yeah. I mean, it's a good run, but it definitely deserved more. 4 or 5
seasons is what it deserved at least.
Yeah, I mean, look at How I Met Your Mother, which was like the king of sitcoms for a while there, and it was really good. And then it got terrible. Like the second half of its run was honestly very weak.
Yeah.
And then Happy Endings is a show I would have preferred to have seen continue rather than drag on. They're not the same maker or anything, but it's just kind of
same era.
No justice.
But now that cast has so much chemistry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I mean,
for
like
sure.
every joke that they pull off as an ensemble, it just works so well.
Yeah, no, it's very good. I wish it could restart. I probably could. I'm trying to remember now. There's sort of a cliffhanger where Penny's wedding was canceled right at the end of the show there, and there was stuff between her and Dave, and I don't know. I'd like to see like maybe Hulu, sponsored by Hulu, can give us another season. You know.
All right, Hulu, you heard it.
Yeah, you heard it. You heard it here.
You heard it here first.
And then I know I've been watching other stuff, but I watched The Spectacular Now again, which is one of my favorite movies.
Who's in it?
Your boy Miles Teller, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Shailene Woodley. It's a huge cast. Bob Odenkirk, my boy Kyle Chandler.
That's 2 Bob Odenkirk mentions this episode, and 3 Mary Elizabeth Winsteads.
Hey, Bob, we'd love to have you on the pod. You know what, in Mary Elizabeth? What do you prefer, Mary Elizabeth? Do you prefer Mary Elizabeth or just Mary? Let us know.
I think it's just Mary.
Yeah. But no, it's really good. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, you should watch it. If only we would create some medium where we watched movies that each other like, but the other hasn't seen, you know?
Are you doing what I think you're doing?
I'm trying.
You're doing pretty good. Keep going.
I'm bringing it home.
Keep going.
Because today's episode is our inaugural co-host challenge, critical co-host challenge. Why did we do this, Max?
Well, like we said, we wanted to take a break from the countdown. Oh. And then we both have lists of movies the other one hasn't seen that we constantly reference. Yeah,
we'll mention them on the pod sometimes. Like, I believe one episode we talked about Kingsman. You haven't seen Kingsman.
Mm-mm.
And then probably half the movies you mentioned I haven't seen.
I was impressed, actually, that you like Kingsman as much as you do. Oh. Because from the trailers, it looked more like crazy action with some like quirky humor, which I know you do enjoy. If you take a movie and put it on a spin, but from the reactions I got from most people who liked it, I wouldn't put it in the normal category I put a Scott movie in.
Yeah, it's not a standard Scott movie, but
I think that's a testament for the film then, if you liked it that much.
Yeah, it's not that zany, honestly. It's pretty fast-paced, which I like. Like, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World has that fast dialogue and cuts and like, transitions, and Kingsman's similar in that regard. And it's not so action-heavy throughout the movie so much as there's huge set pieces, which I like.
I feel the trailer pushed it, though.
Yeah. I mean, the trailer's always going to pick up on the most exciting things.
Yeah, for sure. We're getting distracted.
We're getting super distracted because that's not one of the movies we watched. But no, so you had a few movies you wanted me to watch, and I picked Pacific Rim off that list. Mm-hmm. What do you like so much about Pacific Rim?
Well, I really like that it is a colorful and beautifully shot film. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, it is a self-indulgent monster movie.
It is.
And I would say it cleverly uses genre tropes to tell a story that is about hope and humanity as well as beating up monsters.
Yeah, there's a very heavy emphasis on beating up the monsters.
Yeah. I mean, that's.
But there is the. Yeah,
that's
I mean,
the
you're
plot.
right.
But yeah, it's the underlying themes is about working together.
Yeah.
So it happens to be both completely ridiculous, completely fun, and just kind of compelling filmmaking while not taking itself like too serious in a way.
Yeah, I really like how unapologetically ridiculous it is. There's moments where it just mentions something that should be so ridiculous, but you just don't argue it because it's in Pacific Rim.
It world builds for like 5 minutes too, but it does it well enough where it just builds off each point.
Yeah, and
until you're there.
It's a unique enough setting and everything that you don't mind that it's spending so much time doing the world building. The idea that the kaiju versus Jaegers would become like big pay-per-view events is kind of funny to me. But that also could be considered a commentary, I guess, on our culture.
Yeah, for sure.
But no, it was good. I liked it.
It's one of those films where a lot of critics who hated it seemed to really hate it. But it had a 71% Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, that's not bad.
For the most part, people enjoyed it. And I mean, for an action science fiction film, that's a pretty high rating for like the the curve, because I feel like that one's usually your big things like Star Wars that'll get a great. Your Marvels will get big ratings, and then we just looked up Constantine to see where that was, and these kind of genre films, you're not banking always on critical reception.
Sure.
You're banking on audience participation.
Yeah, it's the exception that gets the major critical, like an Arrival got huge critical appeal.
Exactly.
But it's just such a good film.
Yeah. So.
But no, that was Pacific Rim.
Yeah.
And then I challenged you to watch Gone Baby Gone.
You did? It was good. I liked it. I had heard of Gone Baby Gone, of course, because it was Ben Affleck. That's his debut, right?
It's his directorial debut.
But no, I mean, everyone had always kind of discussed it. It was very well received when it came out. I just never actually watched it.
Yeah, I definitely think it went under the radar because it's a smaller film than what Ben makes now.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at his past few films. Having not seen Live by Night, though, it is getting poor reviews. The Town, Argo, I'm probably forgetting a big one, but... he makes very big tentpole movies now. Yeah. So it's kind of cool to see what he came from. And I also think it's cool. I'm a big fan of Good Will Hunting. It's one of my favorite movies. And he wrote that, or co-wrote it with Matt Damon, but he always was, like the meme, I guess, was Ben Affleck didn't do anything. Yeah. Because he was in a lot of shitty movies around the same time, right?
A lot of SNL jokes and stuff like that, where it'd be like some guy like Matt Damon, like playing Matt Damon, being like, I wrote this film, and Ben's like, and I look good, and just jokes like that constantly. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It was good to see Ben come out and show that he actually has the talent as well.
Yeah, and then beyond that, it's just a really good movie. I like the style of filmmaking a lot. There's sort of a 3-act structure here, like a very distinct one, which I like. Another movie like that would be A Place Beyond the Pines, where it's very distinct with its different parts. And it presents a moral quandary at the end that really stuck with me.
It's always good.
Yeah, and it has Casey Affleck as the star. This was probably Casey Affleck's star-making performance. The first one he really was big in. It was either this or The Assassination of Jesse James by the Carl Robert Ford. I can't actually remember which came first, but...
I commented to you that I'm so used to seeing Casey play a complete fuck up.
Yeah.
That it's weird to see him like not play that role.
Yeah,
and
to be
there's
like
points
the
where
hero
he dips
almost.
into it.
Yeah.
But no.
Yeah. He dips into complete fuck up.
It was a good performance.
Yeah. So. Yeah, and this one, I don't have the number in front of me, but I want to say it was like 91 or 92% on Rotten Tomatoes.
94.
94. Even better.
Yeah.
So it obviously was a big hit there, but I feel like a lot of people haven't seen it. A lot of my friends haven't seen it. And I don't know if it got a full run in the theaters. It only grossed $20 million at the box office. So it makes me think it was a limited release, but I don't know. But I think it held up pretty well too. We'll probably talk about it more. Because it was 2006, which is amazingly 11 years ago now.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But no, it was, I did enjoy Gone Baby Gone. I really like the story. Like you said, there's a moral quandary. I thought the characters were very multifaceted. Because even like with your protagonist, you get why he's making a decision in the film, the very big decision he makes towards the end. You completely disagree with him. Yeah,
and you can see from what happens earlier in the film why he made that decision. So, do you want to? Let's talk about Gone Baby Gone first. Yeah, so the story of Gone Baby Gone is it takes place in Boston, and there's a child kidnapped from kind of a deadbeat family situation. Her mother is a drug addict, but the extended family very much cares about the child. So Casey Affleck and Michelle Monaghan play a couple who are private investigators. And they're hired to help the cops. So there's already animosity there between the private investigators and the police because the police don't want them there, obviously, and they're just getting paid to be there and everything. But it kind of unravels from there. So Casey Affleck's character's big role is he knows people in Boston, people that the cops can't talk to. So he goes around and kind of deals with maybe the scummier side of South Boston. He's in the bars, he's with the drug dealers and everything. So he's getting that side and like begrudgingly working with the cops. Eventually they find who has the kidnapped child and they do agree to kind of a back alley deal. The police are involved too, so there's this whole cover-up going on. The deal goes awry and everything kind of blows up. The police chief, played by Morgan Freeman, steps down. Ed Harris, who's kind of the lead cop, is kind of taking it hard. And that's kind of your end of Act 1. And then Act 2 comes in, and some of the connections Casey had made have found this like pedophile ring, essentially, of these like gross cokeheads. There's another kidnapped boy. The private Casey Affleck and Michelle Monaghan are not on that case, but it's in the background. And so they go to this pedophile ring, and it's Ed Harris and it's Casey Affleck, and they shoot everyone and they break it up. And you can tell Casey Affleck's character's having trouble with that because he killed people and everything. And then you saw the boy, the second kidnapped child, dead in this terrible pedophile rapist crack house. It comes out after that essentially Ed Harris was double dealing with Casey Affleck. There was this whole cover-up with the original girl who was kidnapped, and she wasn't actually kidnapped by Cheese, who's the drug dealer from earlier. She was taken by someone in the family to protect her, and then there's this whole thing with money. It's a very complicated situation, but what happens is there's a shootout. Ed Harris gets shot and dies, and then Casey Affleck and Michelle Monaghan end up at disgraced police chief Morgan Freeman's house, where he has the missing child now. And this comes to our big quandary. The girl's obviously very happy there. She's 4 years old. She's in a loving household. She's gonna have friends. She's gonna have a great childhood there, but she was kidnapped. The mother obviously didn't agree to this. So Casey Affleck is essentially faced with the decision: do I call this in and bring the daughter back to her broken home, or do I leave her here in happiness?
Yeah, but illegal happiness.
Illegal happiness, yeah. Yes. So it gets really heavy right there, and that's one of my favorite parts about this movie is it's almost a standard police procedural crime movie before that, where you're working with the cops, you're working with the criminals, there's twists and turns in the story, and then it hits you with this right at the end. Just it hits you really hard. Casey Affleck and Michelle Monaghan play either a married couple or just like live-in couple, And she's like, if you do that, we're done. I couldn't live with you anymore.
Yeah.
But he's obviously broken up. After he shot the guy in that crackhead's house, you could tell he wasn't handling it well. He even says to Ed Harris's character, he says, if it happened again, I wouldn't have shot him.
His Catholicism kicks in really hard, which I think is an important part that they talk about during that period, because Ed Harris's character very much took the perspective of, it doesn't matter if you do the wrong thing to get to the right results.
Yeah, for the right reasons.
It's, you're still doing right. And his character was like...
Patrick,
he was like, no, I mean, that's not how it works. God doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
You know, this
murder's murder.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a sin is a sin is a sin.
Yeah.
So...
And it's particularly tough because the murder in question, I guess here, the execution really, was this obviously mentally disabled, probably, pedophile who had raped and killed a 7-year-old boy. Yeah. And Casey finds him and just kills him right there. It's hard to argue that guy didn't deserve it, though with his mental disability, maybe...
I mean, even then,
it's definitely a tough situation.
They paint that situation as difficult because you could tell, I don't know if it was makeup or the actor, but it looked like he had recovered from like a hair lip situation.
Yeah.
He was speaking like he was mentally deficient.
Yeah, deficient's maybe the best way.
And he looked remorseful over what he did too.
He was saying like, I didn't mean to, or like it was an accident.
It's not,
No, that's not okay, but...
Yeah, but it's just showing you that, I mean, the movie explores a lot of gray areas, basically.
Yeah, and I really like when movies do that. A lot of times, I mean, anyone who's been a long-time listener of the pod probably knows when we talk about movies like Charlie St. Cloud and these other movies that they kind of stay on the straight and narrow, we always want them to go in a darker direction or touch on these challenging things.
At least, like, dip into human emotions.
Yeah.
Like, realistic human emotions.
Yeah, and this movie definitely does that. You mentioned the Catholicism. There's a really great opening monologue in the movie that Casey Affleck delivers, but one of the lines from it is when he's talking about how he talks to his priest about how to get into heaven, and they say, be wise as serpents, but innocent as doves, and be a wolf in sheep's, or be a sheep in the wolf's den and everything. And so it's interesting when it comes out, like they are in the wolf's den.
Yeah.
There's a lot of blame placing where it's, if this deal goes bad, that girl's gonna die, and that's on you, and it just ramps the stakes up for everything. And it's not an action movie by any means either.
No, it has good action moments for like police action moments, but I mean that's just that one main shootout.
Yeah, at the crack house there.
But then I mean the exchange earlier in the film, it has the thrilling aspect of it.
It ramps up the tension and everything.
You're absolutely right. It's not like action.
Yeah. So let me ask you this: the big twist of the movie is that the cops and the extended family were part of the girl's kidnapping. Did you see that coming at all? Just out of curiosity.
I felt there was definitely more to the story, and with Ed Harris, I mean, I felt there was more to his character.
Yeah.
But I didn't know. No, I didn't think. Yeah. I thought maybe they were covering up that they killed her, which is what the first plot point they get to.
Yeah.
That he thinks it was like a cover-up job.
They staged this whole the girl fell into this lake and died situation of death certificates.
So I started to suspect that when he was talking about like, well, it's the means to the end kind of stuff. But then shortly after that is, the character Patrick thinking that and then thinking the truth.
Yeah.
Like putting it all together over time. So I wasn't that far ahead of the game. It was just, I didn't even come up with the final actual plot line. Yeah. But it was well hidden in there. When you think back at it all fits too. So
that's the best part about it.
The cops didn't want them to work with the private investigator for that reason.
And even the extended family didn't want the brother of the woman whose child is kidnapped and his wife. They go to the private investigators, but you can tell the whole time he's not wanting to be there, and she is. And it looks almost at the start when you don't have all the pieces, it looks like he's just frustrated with the whole situation, maybe. And no, it's super interesting, and I love that all the pieces were there.
Yeah.
Sometimes movies do twist, like Da Vinci Code does this, where there's no way to see what crazy twist it's going to be.
Yeah.
It just happens. This is a movie that plants all those seeds, and it doesn't waste shots.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel overly long to me. The interesting thing is there's like a distinct end to the movie, but then there's that last 20-minute scene, really. Like the distinct end would be when Ed Harris's character dies, and Remy Brisson was his character's name.
Yeah.
When he dies, you could think, okay, they've unraveled the whole police thing. That's the end of it. But then the best part of the movie happens, and that's that mortal quandary. I'm curious. Casey's talking to you. You're Michelle Moynihan, Max. You see what happens. Casey's asking you if he should call the cops or not. What do you say?
I side with Michelle on this one.
Yeah.
Only because I feel the kid could have had a better shot, but I also don't have a strict code of beliefs like Catholicism.
Yeah.
But I feel like, yeah, it's wrong, but sometimes I guess I lean more towards that, where you can do wrong things to get to the right.
Yeah.
Chaotic good, I guess.
The Remy-Bresson theory, the Ed Harris theory.
Yeah. He takes a little harder than I would, but like his story of, saving that kid by getting his dad arrested, the kid still might end up in a bad spot, but he did his part.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily agree with that, but I'm saying, I get the reasoning behind it.
No.
So, what about you?
It's not just because it's KCF. I need to say that because I'm such an unapologetic fan. I would side with the Casey Affleck side, though. His character, I think, makes a great point where he says in 20 years, or Morgan Freeman, when they're talking, he's like, in 20 years, if you take this girl back, she's going to be on the streets too, and you're going to be upset with yourself. But Casey says, or Patrick essentially says, in 20 years, if that girl's back with her mom, at least I made the move to get her there, and then she can work from there. Whereas I didn't aid and abet this kidnapping. Yeah. That would just sit really hard with me. It's not their decision to make, even though it's best. It's not like the daughter was saying, please take me away. And she's 4. She doesn't have the capacity to make a request like that. But I know I personally couldn't live with myself knowing that happened.
I agree in that point that agency is important in those kind of decisions. But, it's like when Madonna goes and adopts all these African kids. Yeah. If the kids had a say and the parents had a say, I guess that's fine. Yeah. I have no beef with that. But no, I mean, that is a major point to make. Yeah.
It's such a good moral...
That's the strongest point is it's not his decision to make.
Yeah. So. But it's such a good moral dilemma, too. I mean, I've never seen a movie that has something that sticks with me like this does. Civil War, Captain America Civil War, not anywhere near the same level, but there's clear sides in that. I know you and I was Team Tony. It's been long enough that I've seen it that I can't remember all the details, and you were Team Cap, I believe.
I thought about rewatching it the other day on Netflix.
It's on Netflix.
And then I saw the runtime, and I was like, I do not have time to sit through that. That's crazy.
When I went up on Netflix, I watched the end battle again, and it's still very good in my opinion.
Back to Gone Baby Gone, I just want to say Amy Ryan had a very strong performance. Yeah. She was really good in the film.
She plays the mother of the kidnapped daughter, and I want to say this was one of her first, at least, premiere roles. Yeah. She's she might be best known as Holly from The Office, and this couldn't be further from that, which is funny.
In The Office, she's cute,
and bubbly
and a good person.
Yeah, and in this, she's as deadbeat trash as she's supposed to be. Yeah. Even in the end, when they're bringing her daughter home, they show her cleaning herself up and making sure she looks good for the cameras, and she makes this big teary-eyed speech and everything, and you can tell it's not because her daughter's back. And then there's one more scene to really kick you in the gonads where Patrick goes to her house after everything's settled. His wife/girlfriend's left him, and he's talking with Amy Ryan's character, and she's like, I'm about to go to the bar. A guy who saw me on TV on my interview is taking me out for dinner. He's so romantic, all this stuff. And he's like, who's watching? I can't remember the girl's name off the top of my head now. Allison or something? Amanda, yeah. Who's watching Amanda? And she's like, Dolly is their neighbor. And she's like, does she know that? And she's like, she will in a few minutes. And she clearly still does not care about her child. Yeah. And she treats her almost like a dog. As she's leaving, she just puts a toy in her lap and says, well, see you later. And then Patrick stays with her. But as someone who personally would have sided with the Patrick side of that dilemma, that made it even worse. I was like, ugh. Yeah. But I don't know. It's such a tricky ending.
That's a good film.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
I think the shots hold up well. You can see a lot of what Ben Affleck's doing here in Argo and the town and stuff. Yeah. It's not these complex cinematography coming in. It's pretty standard shots. A lot of good cityscapes and stuff.
Yeah. That was one of my feelings about it. And this isn't a detriment to it. It's pretty standardly filmed. Mm-hmm. The part I would want more, if I were to have any changes I can make to the film, would just be a couple more compelling visuals. I felt the crack house scene was very compelling.
Yeah, that one definitely was. But that one was also the most dynamically shot.
Exactly. And there's a couple other moments where there could have been more dynamics in the shots. Yeah. And my only actual complaint with the film, I told you right after we watched it, there's this really weird scene where they meet with Ed Harris and his partner the first time they meet, and it's just edited very strange and haphazard and kind of like hectically.
Yeah.
And it took me out of the film for a good moment. What brought me back in was how cool Ed Harris looks in the picture.
Yeah, he's got this like fade kind of like it's long and it's not quite a mullet, but it's like pushing it.
Yeah.
And a sweet goatee.
I mean, it's Ed Harris. You get a good performance every time, but no, the editing there was just hectic, and for a moment that like really broke me. But then, I mean, the film's good, so it brings you back in.
Yeah, what's interesting is I think it's like a still camera for most of the movie, and then the particularly the setup shootout there at the quarry that has a lot of moving camera, and the scene at the crack house, the shootout also has a more dynamic camera there. But I think they were doing that scatter shot camera in the scene you're talking about because it was like the police and them meeting for the first time, but it definitely didn't work. I know exactly the scene you're talking about. It does stick out kind of like a sore thumb.
It's just strange because the rest of the movie is not like that. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess that's why I vividly remember it. Mm-hmm. But no, other than that, I mean, strong visuals, but I mean, not like mind-blowing, just, good, strong filmmaking.
Would you recommend it to our audience?
Yeah, if you haven't seen it, I'd definitely say check it out. It's
you heard it here first, folks.
It's a good thriller. It's a good neo-noir police
crime. Would you call it neo-noir? Neo-noir is such a weird pseudo-genre.
Well, it's like,
because like noir was always black and white and the femme fatale.
But this, I mean, you got to think they're given something to investigate by a lady. She's not a femme fatale, but a woman gives them something to investigate. They investigate it. It's a turnaround. They get tricked. It all goes like kind of blows up in their face. Yeah.
No, I mean, I see a lot of those themes, but that's one of those genres that is very tough to say. Because some people will say, like, no, it has to have lighting like this and this. And
for sure, noir does. But neo-noir, I think, is more if you take it and subvert it or change it. So.
Let's get like a classic noir film out there, like a big one, black and white.
I want to say someone did one.
There's like the artist was black and white, right? That's not noir, but
I want to say Christopher Nolan's very first film that I don't remember.
Following.
That might be one.
Yeah, but I want like a big budget one. You know,
I gotcha. Like I think he made that one a noir because it's cheaper.
Yeah.
Because you use like one light.
Yeah.
And you use a lot of dark rooms and windows.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Smart filmmaking.
Yeah. Hey, good work. It built him a career, I guess. Yeah. Speaking of low budget, let's talk about your pick.
My pick, real low budget. Almost $200 million budget.
Yeah.
But the good news is, worldwide, they made about $400 million.
Yeah.
Only about a quarter of that was here in the States. The rest was foreign. But
we're, of course, talking about Pacific Rim.
Yeah, Pacific Rim. Which they have apparently greenlit a sequel.
Yeah, John Boyega's in on it.
Yeah,
right?
He's like producing it and starring in it. Yeah. I guess he loved it.
Yeah, I mean, I can see why. Yeah. Is Guillermo del Toro still directing?
I think he might be producing or
EP or something.
Producing. Yeah.
That's too bad because
he had pitched a sequel, but I think since the budget was so like back and forth, and it grossed kind of weird numbers since it was mostly foreign, that it never really took off with his idea.
Yeah.
But he was definitely cool with other filmmakers coming up with a sequel. So
that's good.
Which he's kind of known for sometimes not following up on his film ideas. That's kind of a Guillermo del Toro thing.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of in-development things. He had a big Silent Hill game coming out that was canceled. And I don't know if that was on him or the studio, but...
I want to say that one was like Konami.
Yeah, but he does always have a lot of stokes in the flame.
I think he signs up for a ton of projects and just...
He probably wants to do a lot of things.
But, for sure. I mean, he's such a creative thinker.
By the way, before we jump in, have you watched his Netflix show Troll Hunters yet?
I saw the movie Troll Hunter.
There's
the cartoon.
Yeah, cartoon show. It came out like a month ago or something.
No, have you seen any of it?
I haven't, but I've heard good things.
I didn't realize it was him.
Yep. And Anton Yelchin did the voice of the main character.
That's cool.
And he either died before they finished all the work, or he made it through this season, and I'm not sure, but I've heard good things. So I was just wondering if you'd seen it.
No, I haven't seen any of it.
I'm pretty sure this is the first Guillermo del Toro movie I'd ever seen.
Really?
Because I haven't seen...
I'll expand my list then.
Pan's Labyrinth terrifies me.
Have you seen it?
No.
Oh, you got to see that one.
It like watching the trailer scares me.
That's probably one of the best movies I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I'll definitely get you on that one.
And then what else he did that one with Crimson Peak, right?
I've not seen
with
that
Tom
one.
Hiddleston.
But I heard that one's actually not a scary film. It's just like a weird movie.
It looks scary.
No, but then he's done the Hellboy films.
Yeah, I haven't seen the Hellboy films.
Which are great.
Yeah.
And he did Kronos, which I haven't seen yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, Pacific Rim.
Burst my GDT bubble here.
It's a science fiction action monster movie, creature feature.
Yeah.
So it stars Charlie Hunnam, Idris Elba, or is it Idris? It's Idris, right? Idris Elba, Rinko Kikuchi, and Charlie Day.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's
Ron Perlman too.
Yeah, Ron Perlman. That's true. He plays Hannibal Chow.
Yeah, which is a great name.
Yeah, but this film's it's hard to explain fully. But
you can leave it at like its most basic, like it's big monsters versus bigger robots.
Yeah, but I mean, but
you're not touching everything. Yeah, there's more of a plot there than it sounds like.
Like we said earlier, they do some world building at the beginning of the film and kind of let you know that these giant monsters came from a interdimensional rift in the ocean, and they call them kaiju.
Yep.
Which is very much inspired by the Japanese word that means strange monster. And these kaiju are just attacking. They're giant. They're huge. They're destroying cities.
Yeah.
It takes 6 days to kill the first one using a assortment of missiles and jets and attacks.
Conventional means, I guess you could call it.
And so after the first attack, they thought it was just an anomaly. Attacks keep coming, and maybe like 6 kaiju later, they're like, we have to do something about this. Yeah. So the natural response of any, worldwide newly formed government is to create giant robots controlled by human minds to destroy the kaiju. And they do a little bit more world building here and show you that one pilot, the stress was too much on their brain, so they have to use 2 pilots working in conjunction, left hemisphere, right hemisphere. And then they use this neural connection, DARPA technology, I think they said. And they go to fight. And so our story begins with Raleigh Beckett. He is a Jaeger pilot with his brother. I can't remember his brother's name, but
I can give him one if you want.
Go ahead.
Rex.
Raleigh and Rex. So Raleigh and Rex are in Alaska, and they go out in their Jaeger, Gypsy Danger, to fight this new kaiju that just shows up named Knifehead. They go out to the fight. They disobey orders because they're just those kind of guys. They're very American. And disobeying orders leads to Raleigh's brother getting killed. He manages to kill the kaiju, but then we see him wandering. We see his Jaeger's, his giant robot is destroyed.
Yeah, it's fucked up.
They crash. He comes out. He looks crazed. And the movie just kind of fades to 5 years later. 5 years later, we pick up the world government has banded together to create a giant ocean wall, like a coastal wall.
Yeah, which is like the only idea more ridiculous than building giant robots to fight them.
Yeah, so they're like, we don't need these robots. We're going to build this like huge wall to keep the monsters out. And Marshall Stacker Pentecost, played by Idris Elba, is like, this is a stupid idea. Yeah. And he's like, well, you got to meet me halfway here. Let me get something. And they're like, we'll fund you through
8 months, I think.
Just a couple months or something. And so he gathers up everything he can, which leads him back to Raleigh. He finds him building the wall. And he's just like, hey, man, the world's coming to an end. We see on the news that like the wall doesn't actually work. A kaiju breaks through it. And they destroy
immediately.
It. Yeah. And then they do show a Jaeger pilot beat that kaiju. But basically, he's like, look, would you rather die here building a wall? Or would you rather die as a pilot? Like, which one?
So, 2 good pictures you painted me there, Marshall.
So he's like, yeah, I'll go. And he goes out to Hong Kong. They have a last hold, kind of a last stand base that they call the Shatter Dome, which
is ridiculous as well.
is equally ridiculous. But so now we just see that there's, I think, 4 total Jaegers. He meets Mako Mori, who is Stacker Pentecost's adopted daughter / protege. And we see these giant robots. They're going to make one big run again, is what he says. Like, we're going to get you a co-pilot. You're going to run point. This, like, cocky Australian kid and his dad are going to deliver a giant nuke into the rift that these monsters come out of.
Yeah.
And we're going to try it. And they were just like, well, he was like, we've tried blowing it up before. Well, why is it going to work this time? He was like, well, we're researching it. We're trying new things.
Yeah.
The new things they're trying are these 2 scientists who are both using, like, mathematical formulas to figure out the actual, like, way they show up, how they show up, what they're doing. And the other one is studying the anatomy of kaiju to see hey, there's something up here. They all seem like they're the same genetics, like literally the same genetics. So where that takes us is Raleigh and Mako, they end up being drift compatible, which means their brains can work together in the Jaeger. There's some mishaps with it. We see this really cool sequence of her memory, which is probably my favorite part of the film.
It was very cool.
But yeah, we see that, they're both kind of damaged people.
Yeah.
But they managed to, like, work together, get this going. But then at the same time, a double kaiju event happens, which is like what one of the scientists was predicting.
Yeah.
And these two kaiju attack. But we realize that probably happened because the scientist played by Charlie Day drifted with a kaiju brain, which is not a great idea.
No.
And, so basically that created a passage where they knew as much about us as we knew about them. So then they increased their attacks like right away.
Yep.
And we have this huge set piece on like Hong Kong where it's, I think we see...
There's 3 Jaegers.
3 Jaegers. 2 of them get destroyed right off the bat. Yeah. 1 gets disabled. Yeah. Then our stars, Gypsy Danger, come in. And there's this huge fight throughout the city.
Yeah, against 2 kaiju, right?
Yeah, against 2 kaiju. It's probably like the biggest fight of the movie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and it's definitely like one of my favorite sequences throughout the whole film.
It's a very strong action sequence.
But then after that, they do manage to drift again with another kaiju brain, which even though it's a bad idea, they were like, we can get more information. Yeah.
Well, and the marshal had commanded them to.
Oh, yeah, that's right. The marshal was like, just do it because we need something.
Yeah.
And while they're doing that, they also launched the second attack to bring the nuke into the rift. And so the 2 Jaegers that are surviving, the Australian guy, his dad got injured, so him and Stacker are going in. Yep. Mako and Raleigh are going in too. It's this huge fight. It becomes the triple event that they've been talking about the entire movie where
3 kaiju.
Yeah, 3 kaiju, and 1 is like a new, bigger category than the other ones. Yeah. So that becomes a huge fight. They have to explode the nukes to try and like kill the 3 kaiju before they can even go in, which means they have to take Gypsy Danger in because it's nuclear powered.
So they can blow it up like a nuke.
So they can blow up the rift, and so they do that. And then at the last second, we see that both of those characters survived, although the other 2, Stacker Pentecost and the cocky Australian kid, did not survive because they blew themselves up. There's a lot more nuance when you actually watch the film.
Yeah, that's just your rapid fire.
The bullet points here. But no, it's I mean, it's not breaking the mold of action movies by any means.
No.
There are some things that they like subvert and do differently. Like Mako Mori, the female character. Sadly to say, she's like the only female character in the film.
Truly, yeah.
But she's also treated with like tons of respect and not sexualized, which is refreshing for a movie like this.
Yeah.
I feel like any other director would have had her like
a forced romance
in a leather outfit, like backflipping into the room.
Yeah, or like just a bra. Yeah. Not even anything on the bottom.
Yeah, they do more cheesecake shots of Charlie.
Yeah, they do.
Which one? Charlie Hunnam, not Charlie Day.
Yeah.
Charlie Hunnam.
Not enough beefcake shots of Charlie Day.
But they do some beefcake shots of him about 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
So.
What's funny is I just said they didn't do a forced romance, and now I'm remembering they sort of did. It wasn't as shoved down your throat, but it was more subtle.
Thankfully, they didn't end the film with like a kiss or anything. Yeah. It's they're embracing each other, just happy. But you got to think like he let someone in his head. Yeah. They're bonded in some way.
To a deeper level.
Yeah.
I just want to point out, it's hilarious. Looking at this, like the section you do is so much slower than whenever I'm talking.
What's amazing is the computer can compress it all to the same level.
I was watching it while you were doing it. I was like,
wondering what you kept looking at. That's funny. Also, the 2 different mics were different.
But I just
but no, there's a lot of cool things with this film. Obviously, it's not as like a film that paints a moral quandary.
No, it's.
But it does.
It's kind of hitting you on a different level than Gone Baby Gone.
I mean, comparing these 2 films is apples and oranges. But what I do like is, I was telling you this earlier, they used a lot of like actual on location sets and some life size sets. Like they built an actual life size Jaeger cockpit.
Oh, okay.
And they also built a smaller one for like easier like different shots. But so there's one that's like a smaller sectional. There's one that's a giant one. And
I just assumed that those were all done in like computer generation, so that's cool that it's practical.
Remember the scene that you laughed at a lot where the fist burst into that office building?
Yes.
Apparently that office building was completely 3D printed and they had like a green screen.
It was a model, I'm guessing?
Yeah. It was a tiny model, and they had a green screened thing that they punched into it and like pulled out.
That's funny.
To like create that shot. So there's there's tons of stuff like that where Guillermo del Toro, he did research on how wind would bend windows as a giant robot walks between two buildings. Like the amount of like granular research he did for this film is ridiculous, but I feel like that's what makes it good, is that it's not just beating you over the head. It's not like Transformers. It's just someone who vividly loved what they were doing, putting it together. And I think it shows. Yeah,
there's an attention to detail here that Independence Day Resurgence does not have. Everything, even from those story building things, the world building and everything with the Jaegers and all these little details around it are very strongly built up.
Like when they mentioned they thought it was just an anomaly, they show the kaiju skull in a museum with people just like looking at it. I don't think like a silly action movie would really put that scene in there for no real reason.
That 2 second, But, and then there's stuff like the anatomy of the kaiju, like the brain, the secondary brain, and there's like a history almost of it all, which is really cool.
Also, they designed the kaiju to look like they could be costumes worn by people, because they're very heavily inspired by, old Japanese
like Godzilla and stuff, which were costumes worn by people.
Loosely, they have like a human form to them because they picture like a human wearing them. Like in theory, it's not actually that way, but it's like you could possibly build it and have someone wear it.
Because when I'm thinking of like the kaiju archetypes, there was an eel one I remember. At the end, there was a pterodactyl. There was a rhino one. There's probably there was like a Cthulhu one that was like the category 5.
So there's a lot of different ones.
Different designs for sure.
Overall, that was one of the things they gave each other. Apparently, they designed like hundreds, and they only used a handful. And same for the robots. They designed hundreds of them and only used 15.
That's cool too, because Charlie Day's character, kind of the B plot, he's working with, was it Harrison Chow or
Hannibal Chow.
Chow, trying to get another brain, a kaiju brain, and he walks into Hannibal Chow's like lair, which is just full of kaiju body parts. And he's just walking around naming all these different kaiju. He's like, oh, that's a whatever dorsal fin, and that's a blah, blah, blah. And so that was pretty cool, too. It shows, like, those details are there.
Oh, for sure.
I never saw this movie because it's not the style of movie that if you pitch to me, I'm like, let's go see it. And I also assumed forever that it was a shaky cam movie, and I think I just associated with Cloverfield because it's another monster movie. And there were shaky cam scenes, but the vast majority of the movie is not like that. So
there's a couple of fights where they definitely kick that in there. No, I remember actually the first trailer, I thought it looked kind of goofy. And I wasn't that into it.
I mean, it is goofy.
But it looked like bad goofy.
Yeah.
But then, I think it was the second trailer he made. It looked just a lot better to me. But then also I was reading, I don't know which trailer they did. Apparently there is a sweeted trailer of Pacific Rim. That's where people just make it using their own props.
Oh, okay.
And they redo it. I'll show it to you after this. But, and Guillermo del Toro apparently loved their like cheap version of his trailer. It's really funny. I watched it. It's pretty goofy. But there's this scene where Gypsy Danger gets thrown.
Through the city.
Through a city. And when they did that scene, the person wearing their robot costume is like sliding on an office chair, spinning, and it looks actually really good. So I was impressed with that. Funny. But no, and it's a testament to this film that you can take those things and kind of simplify them down, and it still works in some sense in a silly, goofy trailer.
I mean, it's just like in their bare bones forms. They're
one thing I thought was cool, the scene I mentioned I liked a lot, where Mako Mori goes back into her memory. That was all like that was how they shot it, where they darkened the set and then brought them out there somehow. So it's all like it's not a continuous shot, but it's one continuous like shooting movement.
Sequence, maybe.
So I thought that was really
cool. That was a cool scene, and it definitely stands out from the rest. Like it's visually very different. There's a lot of like white light in the background, I know, which stands out.
Lights and then there's that beautiful shot of
looking
Idris
up at the
coming out of his Jaeger.
The Messiah. I like all the little different details. Like I don't think they called it just kaiju poisoning, but there's like their blood like contaminates water and radiation somehow, and he has this poisoning throughout.
He had from the Jaegers, the robots, the radiation was so intense that like he got irradiated himself.
And I don't think that paid off really. It just kind of was recurring, and maybe in future movies it'll be a thing or something, but
Well,
it just explains why he's not a pilot anymore, I guess.
For Stacker, it showed, because at one point he explains if he ever gets back in a Jaeger, it will be the death of him, basically.
Yeah, but did they ever say why it would be the death of him?
Oh, because he got radiation sickness from piloting by himself, and the early ones. So he was just like, the strain of it on his brain and everything would eventually lead him in.
I thought it was
why he basically went on a death run at the end.
Yeah. I thought it was from that, like they showed it turning the water like that vibrant blue. I assumed it was from that.
The kaiju blue.
Okay, that's interesting then. Yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of good details in here. Like there's a lot of things that they don't explain and that like I had questions about, but the whole package is so over the top that I don't even bother asking those questions. I just kind of sit back.
I did find one answer for something you asked me.
Yeah, what was the question?
You were like, hey, if their minds are linked, why do they talk to each other?
Yeah.
And screenwriter Travis Beecham, who wrote it, he said that when they're telepathically linked, they stay focused by yelling things out to each other. So it's like to bring it out from the mind.
Okay.
Like it's like them pushing it forward. I think it's more a visual cue also for the audience to know what's going on.
Yeah, because if they were doing everything in their mind, it would be pretty boring.
Yeah, but then the things they yell, I actually, it's one of the things I like about it. Raleigh, he's always just constantly like, Mako, I'm gonna burn this son of a bitch. And he like grabs the kaiju and like burns it in an ocean vent. It's just funny things like that. So
I know the main character there would always just be like, load the cannon, or like plasma cannon, everything you got, like stuff like that.
Rocket, what was it? Rocket elbow.
Yeah, rocket elbow.
So, and then I really like, although it's a ridiculous sequence, I agree this is like the goofiest thing, but it's awesome. When the kaiju turns into like Mothra, basically, and flies them into space. Yeah. She's like, wait, we have one more thing. The sword. Yeah. And they use the sword, and you're like, why didn't they just use that before?
Yeah, they're like punching these monsters the whole time.
It's a fair question. But it's also awesome when she says, for my family. Yeah. And like cuts through them.
That made her character a better version of Katana than the Suicide Squad version.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, no, for sure.
But when they just pull out that sword, because the whole time I was already thinking it was ridiculous. They designed these huge robots with missile salvos just making up their bodies and stuff, and just start punching. Like that seems like the least efficient way to do it. And then when they pulled out a sword, I was even more confused because it doesn't make much sense to me. I also have this thing because I talked about it during Chappie. If you design something like this, I would assume you wouldn't make it humanoid because like. I'm not going to sit here and say like the human frame is like the most impressive thing that can happen, you know. I would think they'd make other make it wider or quicker or something like that, but it makes sense with the brain link that that's how that would be. But I liked that they showed one kaiju who was not mentioned like the whole movie that had 4 arms, and that was awesome. It never came up. Yeah. Like there was a point where it was being grappled by this other kaiju, and his other 2 arms were just sitting there. He should have just been like battering his chest. I think
that's when they were.
That was at the end battle in Hong Kong.
When they were ripping them. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
But it would have been cool to see stuff
possibly
like that.
The pilots had just gotten injured, and that's why they were.
But I just would have loved to seen like a payoff there, you know. For sure. But I like the idea of there being the different Jaeger designs too.
For sure. And I'm interested to see what they do with the sequel because
because the first one wraps it all up.
It wraps it up pretty decently, but he said he had always envisioned having sequels to it, so that it could go.
It was obviously a plan,
Which I mean, if they opened a rift once, in theory they could open another rift.
And they are still aliens. They mentioned that at the beginning.
Yeah, they're like interdimensional aliens.
Yeah. So they could do something from space now.
Yeah. But one thing Guillermo del Toro had originally said was, they left an entire Jaeger in that other dimension world. So now they do have access to robots. He was like, so that is something of interest. Yeah. Originally, I think he had pitched a sequel with Maisie Williams as the star.
Yeah, I feel like I heard about that.
But I don't know if she's involved in the John Boyega project at all.
I think it's so early on, I don't think there's casting or anything out
But
yet.
I've seen pictures of him in what looks like a pilot suit.
Really?
He had a really high fade, which looked really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. So. I didn't love the ending of this movie. I thought they could have ended it. There was one point, like at the 3/4 mark, I guess, where it was like Stacker had just put on, Stacker Pentecost had just put on his suit again and was getting ready to go back in. The 2 scientists had just done the meld again with the kaiju, and they were coming back with this big information that they didn't quite reveal what it was. And Gypsy Danger was back as being like the top dog and everything. And I thought that would have been the perfect place to end it. And then it felt a little too storybook to me at the end suicide mission where they eject at the last second and then they both survive and everything. It just felt a little too like tied up with a bow for me.
Yeah, I think since they painted the whole mission, they had to do the mission. Leading up to that, I get what you're saying. I really don't like how the pods eject. That's like one of my few complaints with it. I feel like they both should just got it at the same time.
Yeah.
But I do like the ending. I feel like I see where it could be anticlimactic for you. Because that huge city fight is so big.
Yeah.
To go from that downtime and then back to a fight again, I can see. Like, I get what you're saying.
Yeah. And it wasn't that it was anticlimactic, it was too climactic for me. Because now I know there's a sequel, and it's almost going to stand on its own because they tied up everything from the first one.
Yeah.
So it would have been cool if, like, the two of them died down there in the suicide mission. They actually died, and then they're painted as big heroes or something. And then you could do something where they're stuck in the rift, and, like, in the next movie, it comes up where they're kaiju corrupted, and they're...
No, for sure.
I don't know, but that's a weird way to do it.
Like, had somebody vanish without coming back.
Yeah.
Like, maybe had Stacker and a Cocky Kid go through.
Yeah.
You know, and then they just never come back. And then you're just wondering. Like, they definitely could have done something like that.
But,
and,
I mean, that's kind of a small point. That's just something I would have preferred if it was different.
I get you.
One thing that I thought was interesting, and this is so loose that it might not even be worth putting in the episode, but in Edge of Tomorrow / Live, Die, Repeat, wasn't one of the big points there that either him or Emily Blunt's character could connect to this alien hive mind as well, and they were all connected as one, just like the kaiju were here.
That's also a big thing in Ender's Game.
Yeah, where it's all connected to one, like, mother brain, essentially. Yeah,
and I feel like that's definitely something people do with Alien Conscious.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. You want to paint
the other, it's like a good way to do the alien version.
Yeah. And then at the end of Edge of Tomorrow, there was another pseudo-suicide mission to destroy, like, the mother brains. So I just thought that was interesting. Those movies are not similar at all.
No.
But
if they have anything in common is that they're both, like, unapologetic science fiction action films.
Yeah.
If you like that kind of thing, where it's just like, we're going to be it, we're going to do it.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's not really that.
And I loved Edge of Tomorrow, so maybe there's something. Maybe I like a hive mind.
Yeah. Could be. Did you ever see Ender's Game?
I didn't see it, but I've read the book, and I love the book.
The book's good.
Yeah. But Asa Butterfield is a little taller than I'd like. He's lanky in an uncomfortable way for me.
That's true.
And I just didn't like the look of it.
Yeah.
And then it got bad reviews. It was like I was on the cusp, and then once it got bad reviews, I was like, no, I won't bother.
Harrison Ford was in it, right?
Harrison Ford, yeah, he was in it.
He played
the
main general. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that was good casting. That's all I thought about. I never saw it.
I always pictured like a bigger and younger guy, like a gruff. I can't think of anyone.
I pictured like a
real old dude,
a real cranky old man. So yeah.
We talked in the past about how Harrison Ford has entered peak cranky old man. Cranky. So
cranky. One quick thing I want to touch on is Rotten Tomatoes had suggested like people who like this also like this, and on Gone Baby Gone, the 3 top ones were Mystic River, Stand By Me, and The Last King of Scotland. Have you seen any of those?
Stand By Me is one of my favorites. It's legitimately nothing like Gone Baby Gone. Stand By Me is arguably the ultimate coming of age tale.
So at least they know their audience.
So they know me. Yeah. They know me specifically. Mystic River I haven't seen either, but I know it's based on another novel, I believe, about a kidnapped child, so that makes sense. Last King of Scotland is about African dictators, if I remember correctly. So,
for Pacific Rim, the top 3 people also liked were Dread.
Wow.
And then Back to the Future Part 2 and 3.
Interesting.
And, I mean, I like all 3 of those.
I have not seen Back to the Future 2 or 3.
Yeah, so I was just like, that kind of played for me. I was just, I want to see if yours tested well with it.
Yeah. It's worth noting, last episode I mentioned the list. Mm-hmm. Mystic River and Last King of Scotland are both on the list already. Nice, they were before, so...
That's good to know. So we'll eventually have the update.
Yeah, eventually we'll do the update. Maybe when we do the Critical Co-Host Challenge Part 2. Ooh, teaser! I think this was a good pair of movies, though. I think
it was good exercise.
The other movies because we had pitched like 4 movies to each other, and I don't even remember what mine were. I think it was Whiplash, The Spectacular Now, this, and do you remember what the other choice was?
I think you want to add another because I gave you 4.
Yeah.
Which I don't even remember all mine. I remember Y Tu Mamá También and Goodbye Lenin.
Goodbye Lenin, Pacific Rim. I can't remember either.
Probably something else by another Spanish director.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, A Dog Day Afternoon, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Which is like the classic heist film that you got to see. It's
Yeah.
actually a subversion of the classic heist films, so.
I also on the list.
Yeah. So.
And I can't remember my third one now, but they were all very, like, Scott movies.
Yeah.
Like, these are coming-of-age tales. And then Gone, Baby Gone. And a Casey Affleck movie.
Well, maybe, maybe next one.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see where it ends up. Our list might even change by then. So.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I'm glad that you liked Gone, Baby Gone.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, that was good.
And I'm glad that I liked Pacific Rim. I think that's good.
I was a little worried going into that one because...
well, Pacific Rim's very far out of my comfort zone.
But I feel like also, knowing now that you haven't seen much Guillermo del Toro, I probably would have started with Pan's Labyrinth.
Yeah.
I had assumed, without even checking with you, that you'd seen like at least 2 or 3 of his films.
No.
Which is on me, but I think it shows because I feel like if you know Del Toro and then you see this trailer, you're like, oh yeah, I'll see that.
Yeah. I know his name is so well respected and everything, but
we'll definitely dip back into the Del Toro well eventually. So.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Probably on the tail end of our list.
Yeah.
When the movies are good.
When the movies are good.
Yeah.
We'll be there.
Hey, Max.
Hey, Scott.
Where can the good people find us?
Well, you can find me and you can find us solving crimes with Casey Affleck in South Boston or at thecriticalbreakdown.com. Yep. You can find me at Max Rivera Film on Twitter, or you can always find me in the Drift.
You can find me building a wall and making the kaiju pay for it. Or you can find me at breakdown_Scott. Our email is thecriticalbreakdownpodcast@gmail.com. Let us know what you think of our movies. Did we make good choices?
Yeah.
Is there maybe something our audience has all collectively seen that we haven't?
Ted
Let us know. Ted 2. Give us a rating and a review on iTunes. I'm gonna call out Daniel, superfan Daniel, left us a review recently.
It's very, very pleasant.
Very pleasant review. It made us feel good. If you, fellow members of the audience, want to make us feel good, leave a review.
May just throw in there, it's not just about making us feel good. Every review we get, in theory, moves us up the iTunes charts, which gets us more exposure.
Yeah.
Which means one day we can do real ads.
Maybe we don't want reviews then.
But no, it just means more audience can listen to us. And
yeah, we'll never get Kevin Durant on the podcast unless we start getting more hits.
Goal number 1.
Goal number 1. You can find us on Overcast, other podcatchers.
All of them.
Stitcher Radio, Google Play, and iTunes, of course. You're probably already there.
Yeah, let's be real.
Yeah. Jason Brown does our music.
And Josh Rivera, who was on our Space Jam episode,
Yeah, he was.
did our music. Did our artwork.
Twist. And Wally, of course, is the podcast dog. He did not like Gone Baby Gone.
That was spooky.
He really wanted to hang out with the drug dealer Cheese.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he loves cheese.
Yeah, and he liked Pacific Rim. He was texting me later that night because he said he thought he was a kaiju. Which I agree when it farts. He's a kaiju.
Oh, yeah. Toxic.
Yeah. This is fun, man. We should do this again.
We should.
If you're gone, maybe it's time to come home.
Next week on the Critical Breakdown, we're watching Angels and Demons.
As well as Inferno.
Angels and Demons is rated 37% on Rotten Tomatoes, and Inferno is much lower.
Next week on the Critical Breakdown.
Everything in you